My name is William Brigham. On Instagram, I'm the Artificery. I've been a bladesmith for about 6 years. The reason why I chose the Artificery is because artificers were traditionally the inventors and skilled craftspeople. It's become more common in literature and sci-fi and stuff now as being the crafter or the engineers that make magical objects. So because it has this archaic history to it, and it's not really used very commonly anymore, I thought it fit really well. For me, making things that are not only functional and aesthetically pleasing, but they're also difficult to make and actually takes a lot of inventiveness and engineering and crafting to get it done right. So all in all, it just kind of fits. There's so much that goes into the patterning and everything, but even when you get into the technical stuff, like using the molten salts, I mean, you're like becoming the master of elements. You've got almost like a little volcano there in front of you. So there is a lot of stuff that is kind of mystical and kind of fun, even though it's fully scientific. But I mean, it doesn't take very much imagination to see why blacksmiths and knife makers and people like that were revered in history, because they're transforming raw elements into usable working tools and pieces that are also beautiful and works of art at the same time. This is something that Mareko and I talk about a lot, is when you're trying to do these complex patterns, you're really working four-dimensionally. Because you have a three-dimensional object with a pattern in it, and then as you're changing the outside shape of it, it's going to affect the inside of it. So the way that you have to think about it, it gets very, very complex. And once you have a really complicated pattern, and then you're actually going to forge it into a blade, you have to take into account all the different distortions that are going to occur from then on. So sometimes you've put all of this heart and all of this time into creating this beautiful piece, and you almost sit on it for a while because it looks so nice as it is, but it's not anything yet. And so you've got to like make that leap and actually forge that out into something so that it can be used and out in the world and appreciated. But it's hard to sometimes do that. Like you've got to actually, it's sometimes a little bit scary because you can ruin days or even weeks worth of work at that point. It's definitely a fine line that's hard to kind of balance between the craft and the art. But if you just wanted a knife that would cut, it doesn't need to be Damascus, it can just be a monosteel something. It doesn't have to have a good finish on it, it's just gonna cut. But at the same time, any of the pieces of Damascus can be used in a sculpture or in something that would hang on a wall and be a piece of art in itself. So taking that patterned metal and using it for not just something decorative, but for something functional at the same time doesn't suddenly make it not art anymore. It's blending the two together. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really enjoying experimenting with the stainless, is making mosaic patterns that are bright and shiny and beautiful and then stay that way over weeks and months and years of use so that you can have that thing displayed and it looks like a piece of art, and you can take it down and you can use it and it stays looking exactly the same year after year. It really does become more complicated when you start making something that's functional, because not having to worry about heat treating, you can make a lot of really cool pattern welded stuff. And you can make it into all sorts of shapes, all sorts of patterns, all sorts of things, and it just is what it is. Adding that extra element of making it a functional tool, but making it a knife, adds immense complexity to everything. And so I have really gone out of my way to develop techniques and to work on different things, like using the fluidized sand bed to heat treat things so that I can really accurately and tightly control the temperature, and so that I can have the right atmosphere and different things like that, working with stainless alloys, and then having the right equipment, having a hydraulic presses with the right dies, having a power hammer to be able to draw out the material faster. It still has all the same artistic value of traditional Japanese mokume with non-ferrous metals, and at times can be just as beautiful, but going that extra step and making it a functional object, in my mind, makes it even more valuable, because it can be cherished not only as an art piece, but as something you can actually use every day. Neil invited me to meet some of the guys from Combat Abrasives and to try out some of the products. Grinding stainless blade steels is extremely tough on abrasives, and I've been trying a variety of different ceramic abrasives. I can't think of a brand that I haven't tried over the years. So I was completely open to trying something out and to giving it a go. And honestly, didn't say anything or tell anyone I was using them until I honestly tried them out. And I tried them out in a variety of different applications. And it wasn't until I honestly felt that they were a great product that I even started posting that I was using them. And they hold up great and they work great. Honestly, I can't think of a much tougher thing to do than rough grinding a forged stainless blade steel knife. And so if it holds up on that, it's gonna hold up on pretty much anything else. Being able to collaborate on a piece and each person adding like what they're best at to make a piece to give out to the world is really gratifying. Like putting it's almost like putting the best of each person into something that is then given out to the world. And especially if it's given out for a charitable cause or to something or to benefit someone other than yourself, is great. What's great about being a knife maker and a bladesmith today is the openness of technology, the readily available information that's there. A lot of the techniques that I'm using may be relatively innovative for knife making, but they've been around for a long time, used in other industries and with other applications. But 50 or 60 years ago, you just never would have known about it. Like you wouldn't have heard that you could do a particular thing in a particular way. And maybe there was one person doing it, but they never would have told anyone about it, or maybe they told a couple people about it, never got around. So with only a couple people working on something, you don't get the same kind of advancements as you do with a few people working on something. So it's really cool to be able to take a lot of these traditional techniques and then apply modern science and technology to it and see how far you can push it. And being able to share that information more readily is really cool. So it's just combining new tech and old, you can really do a lot of really cool stuff. But even 20, 30 years ago, even though the information existed, it wasn't very easy to come across. So being able to access academic databases and the internet and everything and see what other people are doing just to see what's possible, and then I'll try it and then maybe even expand upon that. But if you didn't know someone on the other side of the world was even doing something or trying something, you'd never even think to try it yourself. So it's really cool being able to live at this time, being able to share things and everything.